76.5% of the respondents say no. 17.4% of the respondents say yes. Older people seem to be favoring the idea of having multiple wives for Muslim men. But amongst younger people and graduates, it is far less. Raising the marriage age is 82%. It's a good 4% more. Similarly here amongst the younger demographic as well, it's 80%. Should divorced couples be allowed to remarry without any restrictions? So that's the question. An overwhelming 73.7% have responded in the affirmative. They should be allowed to remarry without any restriction. Amongst young people, it's 75% who say that once a couple is divorced, then it doesn't matter whether you're a man or a woman, you should be allowed to freely remarry without having this restriction. Should adoption be allowed regardless of religion? That's the next question on the News 18 UCC survey, India's biggest survey on the Uniform Civil Code. Yes, 64.9% say yes. Amongst the graduates, it does go up by about 5%. But amongst younger people or older people, it seems to be more or less the same. In fact, older people have a larger number who believe that, yes, it should be equal laws when it comes to adoption.
जब दुनिया के अधिकांश मुस्लिम देशों के अंदर एक ही सिविल लॉ जारी है या लागू है, तो भारत में कोई अलग अलग सिविल लॉ होने का कोई औचित्य नहीं था।
इस अमृत काल में जो कॉमन सिविल कोड को लेकर के मंथन हो रहा है जी, मुझे पूरा यकीन है, पूरा विश्वास है कि इससे अमृत जरूर है।
Political parties who are opposing the rights of women, let their eyes be opened, let them look at the situation.
The policy decision DMK is opposed to.
Do you support a common law for marriage, adoption, inheritance, divorce? If common marriage age has to be 21, it will be 21 for everyone. If inheritance equal share is the one that is mandated, it will be the one for everybody. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, Namaste, Jai Hind, and thank you for staying with us on perhaps what is a landmark day here on the News 18 network. Here at CNN News 18, we bring to you perhaps the biggest, most comprehensive survey trying to understand what Muslim women want with respect to a one law that governs all the personal laws or aspects of civil contract. Marriage, divorce, inheritance, adoption, these issues. What do Muslim women want? 880 plus surveyors, all part of the News 18 network, going across 25 states and union territories and bringing out eye-opening insights. Conducted between the 4th and the 8th of July, ladies and gentlemen, we have saddled the strata of Muslim women across the board, across age groups, across socio-economic classifications, from different walks of life, capturing their perspectives on this very, very significant issue. The survey provided a platform for Muslim women to express their views freely and without prejudice. The diversity of opinions we've encountered during the survey has been truly eye-opening. Zaka Jacob, our managing editor, is with us on this broadcast. And Zaka, touch your heart and say you were surprised with the findings. Did you expect to see the kind of response that we saw on the survey?
Oh, no, it's been absolutely eye-opening, like you said in that intro piece, because the extent of support, particularly among Muslim women, and I want to explain this to our viewers as to, it's a legitimate question to ask. A UCC will apply to all sections of citizens, all sections of society. Why have we chosen to survey just Muslim women? They are at a particular disadvantage because they do face discrimination, A, by virtue of being women, and they also face discrimination by virtue of being Muslim. For one example is when it comes to inheritance and property rights, and we'll show that question and the answer to that question as well in a moment. When it comes to property rights, a Muslim woman or a Muslim daughter is entitled to only 1/4 share in ancestral property, whereas a son is entitled to half the share. So if you have a family where there is a son and a daughter, and if both the parents pass away, then that ancestral property, the son gets 3/4 of that property and the daughter gets only 1/4. that is in and of itself discriminatory and violative of Article 14 of the Constitution. And I think that's why we chose the sample size of over 8,000 Muslim women across 25 states. Like I said, about 20-25% of them were between the age of 18 and 44. About 20% of them were graduates or above, postgraduates included. And there was about another 20% which were above the age of 60. So it's a diverse sample of Muslim women. And I think one of the things that has been a standout is the overwhelming sort of support in principle for having common laws when it comes to these civil matters.
Well, so much so that for a long time, a lot of women in Jammu and Kashmir were denied their rights of inheritance if they married outside Kashmir, outside Jammu and Kashmir. So that was done away with back in 2014. Even today, there are a lot of people who are denied their inheritance rights if they marry outside the caste or even the community. Let's go across and see, take a look at the questions that we've covered so far and what the responses have been. Do you support a common law for marriage, divorce and inheritance? 67.2% say yes. 7.4% don't know, can't say. About 25.4% say no. So 25.4%, a high number, which is reflected in some of the other responses too, as far as the nays. But an overwhelming, nearly 70%, close to 70%, coming out and saying, yes, we want a common law. We didn't openly say uniform civil code in the survey, but we covered all the aspects that come under the ambit of it. Question number 2, the next question, ladies and gentlemen. The question that we have shared with you and we asked them, and the responses that have come in on India's biggest UCC survey: do you support 21 years as the legal age of marriage for men and women? 78.7%, an overwhelming number, saying yes, equal age, not 18 and 21, 21 across the board, men and women. The next question, let's quickly go across to the next question that we've showcased and we've discussed so far, and the findings we've shared with our viewers so far. Do you think Muslim men should have the right to marry up to 4 women? 76.5% saying no. Polygamy should not be allowed for men, Muslim men at all. That's what Muslim women are saying. 76.5%, nearly 77% are saying the same. Let's go to the next question. The question on the aspect of inheritance and the question on the aspect of adoption. So let's look at divorced couples, the other aspect. Divorced couples, should they be allowed to remarry without any restriction? 73.7% have said don't have any time gaps. Don't bar women and allow men to remarry immediately after divorce. And then let's look at the aspect of adoption. What is the response? Again, an overwhelming number, 65% nearly, are coming out. Muslim women are saying adoption should be allowed regardless of religion. If you don't have an heir, you should be allowed to adopt. Now let's bring you, there are 2 more questions to share with you. This is question number 6 on the survey, 7 questions in all. This is the aspect of rights of succession and inheritance. Should men and women have equal rights of succession and inheritance? 82.3% have come out and said yes. Now, why would there be such an overwhelming response if there isn't discrimination on ground, ladies and gentlemen? Think about that. Only 11.1%. The minimum number of nays so far that we are seeing, Zaka, and you highlighted this aspect of inheritance. Overwhelming response. That means clear reflecting on ground. They're being affected. They're feeling the pinch of it.
Absolutely. By law, by personal law, like I said, women are allowed to inherit only 1/4 of ancestral property, whereas men get half. Now, here again, if you look at it, Anand, what is interesting is, in the overall, the first question that we asked, do you support uniform laws? It was 67%. So it was 2 out of 3 who were in favor of uniform laws. Here, it is 4 out of 5. Wow. So you've gone up from 67% to 80% in terms of the people who believe that both men and women have an equal right to property. It goes even higher amongst graduates. It's 85%. Almost 9 out of 10 are saying that it should be equal rights when it comes to inheritance of ancestral property between men and women. Same is the case when you look at the younger age group as well. It's 83.5. It's about a little more than 1% of the overall sample. Whereas older people tend to agree that yes, women and men can have different sets of laws when it comes to inheritance and succession. But I think this is one real big pain point for Muslim women, the fact that they don't get equal rights. Remember, all other communities, Hindus, Christians, and the Christian Succession Act was amended after Mary Roy went to the Supreme Court and challenged the fact that Christian women were not getting equal share in ancestral property. That changed in the late 1980s, but now it's only Muslim women who are not entitled to equal share, just like their brothers, just like their husbands, just like their sons. And if you were to, extend this further, in the case of a Muslim widow, she's only entitled to 1/8 of the share of property. Whereas for the case of Hindu widows, Christian widows, if there are no children, then they get the entire property that's been bequeathed by the husband who has passed away. Whereas for Muslim women, it's only 1/8. And I think this has been the standout question out of the 7 that we asked. This is the question that we got the maximum response for in the affirmative. Like I said, in the first question, it was 67%. In the 6th question, it's 82%. So yes, this is a huge pain point. The fact that women and men have different sets of proportions of inheritance when it comes to Muslim law.
Very interesting insight this has comes through, because if you were to actually change it into numbers, Aka, 27 crore Muslim population, Indian Muslims in our country, 27. Nearly 50% are women. So if you're looking at nearly 13.5 crore women, 8,000 samples is just a representation of these 13.5 crore women. And if that voice is saying that we are being discriminated against, 13.5 crore people, women, is not a small number.
Yeah.
And I think somewhere this survey resonates with those numbers, because I think women, they have not shied, ladies and gentlemen. It's very interesting. 90% of our respondents have not shied away from giving us their names, details, etc. They prefer to come out and say who they are. That's a big, big plus. We are holding back their names and information with respect to their privacy, but they have not said कि हमारा नाम मत बताना, we want to be anonymous. No. 90% plus have come and said that. We are joined by Shaira Bano, petitioner in the triple talaq case. Shaira ji, namaste. धन्यवाद हमसे बात करने के लिए। न्यूज़ 18 पर हमने एक सर्वे किया है, मुस्लिम महिलाओं से हमने कॉमन सिविल कोड के बारे में पूछा है। करीब 8,000 से ज्यादा महिलाओं ने इस पर जवाब दिया है, और हर सवाल के जवाब में एक बात सामने आई है कि रुझान एक यूनिफॉर्म सिविल कोड की तरफ है। आप क्या कहेंगी?
मैं कॉमन सिविल कोड के बारे में यही कहना चाहूंगी कि यूनिफॉर्म सिविल कोड आए, और मैं इसका समर्थन करती हूँ, क्योंकि इसकी वजह से अगर यूनिफॉर्म सिविल कोड आता है तो निकाह हलाला, बहुविवाह जैसी जो कुप्रथाएं हैं हमारे मुस्लिम समुदाय में, वो समाप्त हो जाएंगी, और एक जस्टिस मुस्लिम महिलाओं को मिलेगा, और एक आज़ादी मिलेगी जिसमें उनको स्वतंत्र आज़ादी मिलेगी, जिसमें वो तलाक का भी उनको अधिकार होगा, गोद लेने का भी अधिकार होगा, और मतलब जो एक लड़की की जो एज है वो ग्रेजुएशन होनी चाहिए, ताकि मतलब वो मतलब अपने लॉ को जान सके, अपने अधिकारों को जान सके। तो यूनिफॉर्म सिविल कोड आता है तो जाति प्रथा, पर्दा प्रथा वगैरह सब खत्म होती है, समाप्त होती है, और मुस्लिम समुदाय को एक बहुत ही आज़ादी, और जिस दिन यूनिफॉर्म सिविल कोड आएगा तो एक तरह से ये एक ऐतिहासिक मामला होगा, और मैं इसका बहुत ही दिले स्वागत और समर्थन करती हूँ, और तमाम मुस्लिम समुदाय को स्वागत और समर्थन करना चाहिए।
लेकिन शायरा जी, ऑल इंडिया मुस्लिम पर्सनल लॉ बोर्ड ने इसके खिलाफ बोलना शुरू कर दिया है। उनका कहना है कि मेजॉरिटेरियनिज्म है, माइनॉरिटीज पर जबरन एक कानून थोपने की कोशिश की जा रही है। आप क्या कहेंगी? क्या AIMPLB, ऑल इंडिया मुस्लिम पर्सनल लॉ बोर्ड, पूरे मुस्लिम समाज का करता धरता है, उसको रिप्रेजेंट करता है भारत में?
नहीं, ऐसा नहीं है। अगर मुस्लिम पर्सनल लॉ बोर्ड अगर ऐसा कहता है तो वो गलत कहता है, क्योंकि ये एक राजनीतिक मुद्दा नहीं है, ये धार्मिक और सामाजिक मुद्दा है, और इस पे ना धार्मिक कोई अड़चन डाले, और ना ही राजनीतिक कोई अड़चन डाले, ना ही राजनीतिक कोई करे, और ना ही धार्मिक दंगे फसाद कोई करे।
पर राजनीति तो हो रही है, बीजेपी का चुनावी एजेंडा कह रहा है, विपक्ष विरोध शुरू हो चुका है इसका।
क्योंकि नहीं, ये एक राजनीतिक मुद्दा नहीं है, और ये एक सामाजिक मुद्दा है। इसको सभी जो और भी जो पार्टीज हैं उनको समर्थन करना चाहिए, सहयोग देना चाहिए। ताकि जो हमारा जो मुस्लिम समुदाय जो प्रभावित है और जो जिसका सामाजिक विकास नहीं हो पा रहा है और महिलाओं का सामाजिक विकास सही तौर पे नहीं हो पा रहा है।
Right.
अगर यूनिफॉर्म सिविल कोड आता है तो उसका सामाजिक
जी।
मुस्लिम महिलाओं का सामाजिक विकास होगा
जी।
और हमारे देश का भी सामाजिक विकास,
शायरा जी।
राजनीतिक विकास और आर्थिक विकास इससे जुड़ा हुआ है।
शायरा जी।
तो इस पे राजनीति ना करें।
शायरा जी, आप मेरे साथ बने रहिए, आप मेरे साथ बने रहिए। वी आर जॉइंड बाय लेफ्टिनेंट जनरल जमीरुद्दीन शाह. Sir, namaste and Jai Hind. Thank you very much for joining us on a very special day for us here at the News 18 network. We've undertaken a survey. It's a network survey. We've spoken to more than 8,000 Muslim women across 25 states and union territories and asked them questions around the various aspects that could come under the Uniform Civil Code. An overwhelming number of women have responded that they would want to have the marriage age to be equal between 80 as 21 years. They would want an equal share in inheritance. They would want to have the ability or the right to remarry without any restrictions, largely in favor of a uniform civil code. Sir, your thoughts. Zaka Jacob is also with me. Please tell us what you think.
I've been listening to the survey for the last half an hour. I feel it has given a religious tone to the whole issue. That I think is very, very unfair. We should not, on this issue, we should not have a religious bias. You should be honest enough to admit that this is a mistake. Anything, any change that comes about should have a unifying and not a divisive element in it. I think at the moment you are polarizing the whole issue, but that is not correct. Let me also tell you that change is a constant factor of life. What about countries like Turkey, Tunisia, Indonesia? They brought out certain changes. I feel that your survey was important, but please do not make it a religious issue.
General Shah, if I may ask you, let's leave religion aside. On a matter of principle, when it comes to, let's say, I'm just giving an example on inheritance to ancestral property, do you subscribe to the view that irrespective of whether you're a man or a woman, a son or a daughter, you should be entitled to equal share?
I believe in equity, but I am no religious authority to comment on it. What has happened, I spoke to some people on this issue, and they said that, well, they supported whatever is happening at the moment. They said that the wife gets a quarter of the property compared to the sons.
Sons, yeah.
But the wife also gets from her own husband. So that equalizes the whole thing. Now, I am no authority, as I said, but we've got to study, we've got to know what is the architecture of the whole thing. I would say that the Uniform Civil Code should be renamed the National Civil Code. We don't want uniformity. Uniformity is okay for the armed forces. I mean, our strength is diversity, unity in diversity. And that's what I say. Give us the architecture of the code. Right. Everybody's speaking in the air. Give us the architecture, and then we'll be able to comment on it.
But General Saab, whether we say it's a national civil code or a common civil code, the idea is, the reason why we went and surveyed Muslim women is because largely the opposition has come from the AIM, PLB and the Muslim groups, even back when the Hindu laws were codified and the Christian laws were codified to a certain extent. It was the Muslim clergy that opposed it. That's the reason why. But do you believe that all communities should come back and subscribe to a national civil code? Because these codes affect all communities. And I subscribe and I agree with you there. Every caste, every community living in India will be affected when there is a national civil code.
Will you include the tribals?
Yes, sir. They are also being spoken to.
I'm asking you this question. Will you include the tribals?
Why shouldn't they be included?
The practices in the Northeast are totally different. Will you include them or exempt them? Please answer that question.
Well, when it comes to implementing a common civil code, it should be a common civil code pan-India. the contours of it will make the draft of the Common Civil Code, which all of us are eagerly anticipating?
We need to know what is in the draft. We cannot, you see, what is happening is you are carrying out a survey on a national scale. So it'll be first past the post. Suppose 80% vote yes, change required, 20% no. No, I don't think that's any change must have a unifying factor. If it doesn't, I'm afraid it doesn't meet the purpose.
Well, one of the questions we also asked, General Shah, again, you know, you're not a religious expert. None of us here in the studio are religious experts. But again, it comes back to a principle of equity. Islam does not recognize adoption. Islamic law does not recognize adoption. So if you have a childless couple, for example, who decide to adopt a child, then that child is not recognized as a legal heir. Don't you think that is something that can be and should be reformed?
Look, I have a foster mother. My mother's spinster sister brought me up. And I've got no problems with that. So this thing about, I cannot comment. I cannot comment on these religious issues. I'm a soldier. All I'm saying is that the unity of the country amongst all sections, including tribals and people of the Northeast, must be included. We are for an inclusive society, not an exclusive one.
Well, finally, just 30 seconds, but on principle, you do agree that if a personal law or a religious law is standing in the way of equity amongst all classes of citizens, then that needs to be amended or done away with.
We have to follow the example of countries, Islamic countries, which has adopted changes. Change is inevitable. Change has to come. It is one of the laws of life. Change is very much required. But examine what the Indonesia, the Turkey, Tunisia, Libya have done. Yeah. Do that. We need to, I stress again, give us the architecture first and then we'll be able to comment.
But why? But we are not an Islamic nation, General Shah. Thank you very, very much. We are a vibrant democracy and the constitution prevails. So yes, there should be seen. But the fact of the matter is, like you said, it should be a national code applicable to all. Why only examine Islamic nations? That's the bigger question. But let's move to the other aspect, the final question that we'd like to cover, and that brings up question number 7 on the UCC survey, the biggest survey. Should all Indians who have attained majority be free to will away their property? 69.3% of the respondents say yes, they should have the right to decide who they want to bequeath it to. 14.1% say we don't know, we can't say, and there is about nays, which is nearly about 17%. Once again, in the 1937 Shariat Act, this aspect of bequeathing, will, was also deviated on to protect the interests of the Muslim elite as an agreement between Jinnah and this one. Islam has a different rule, and the 1937 Shariat Act has a different provision. But what are our respondents saying, Zakir?
Here again, it's interesting. If you were to look at the age group of 18 to 44 or the overall sample, it's more or less the same, just a 0.6% higher. But graduates, it's substantially higher. It's about 4% higher who believe that all Indians, and this, by the way, I want to clarify, this is not for ancestral property. This is for self-made property. For self-made property, in the case of Hindus, in the case of other religions, you are entitled to do what you want as per your will. If you want to give away your entire property, self-made property, to charity, the law is not a barrier. Whereas here in the case of Islam, if it is self-made property, the religious laws protect in a way that you can't do whatever you want with even self-made property. Forget about ancestral property or inherited property, but even with self-made property, there is certain protections under Islamic personal law. That is something, again, at least the respondents in this survey are saying that if you have worked hard and you have earned whatever assets, movable and immovable, that you have acquired through the dint of your hard work, then 70%, almost 69.3% of our survey respondents say you should have the freedom to will it the way you want. If you want to bequeath it to your sons or daughters, you should be allowed to do that. If you want to give it to a religious institution or to charity, you should be allowed to do that. That is how the survey respondents have responded to this particular question, which was the last and final question, the 7th question that we asked in this series of 7 questions. And I think the moot point that's coming forth is certainly inheritance is a pain point, no doubt about it. And so is, the different
marriage,
time speeds when it comes to, divorce, when it comes to even adoption. I think there is a sense, particularly among Muslim women, that there needs to be a degree of equity, if not uniformity, but certainly equity when it comes to personal law.
Well, they are the second largest grouping. After Hindu women, they are the second largest grouping in the country. And if the Hindu laws, personal laws are already codified, Muslim women, nearly 14 crore in population in our country, if a large number of them, the overwhelming thought process in this sample itself, about 8,000 plus, is that we need to have laws which don't discriminate, which give us parity, then that itself is a big tick in the box, ladies and gentlemen. Satyapal Jain, Additional Solicitor General of India, with us. Karuna Nandi, Senior Advocate, with us. Waris Pathan, spokesperson of the AIMIM, with us. Satyapal Jain ji, where do you stand on the UCC and, of course, this survey? As I say, namaste to everybody. Amna Begum Ansari is also with us, columnist with us. Thank you very much. Satyapal Jain ji, there are concerns that are being raised. Why have you asked only Muslim women? But the fact is that Muslim women are a big entity and a big grouping itself who will influence and who will have an opinion on a common civil code. Largely, they are all saying we are in favor. Now questions are being raised. What about the tribals? What about the women in the Northeast? Have you spoken to all of them?
Sir, I will like to make 2 points. Number 1, first about the desirability of the UCC. Most of the people are in favor of the UCC, as has been predicted by your survey also. Indian Constitution, the first line says, we the people of India. It doesn't say we the Hindus of India or we the Muslims of India or we the people based on the caste, etc., etc. Move on to Article 14, which gives you right of equality irrespective of your religion, caste, etc. 44 talks of the fact that state shall endeavor to secure UCC for all the citizens of the country. So there is a desirability, it is a mandate of the Constitution. We have to go for the UCC. We have already waited for 73 years. It is high time now that we go for that. So far as your survey part is concerned, I think basically you were right in conducting the survey among the Muslim women because of a simple reason that for the last 2 months, the only argument and the only allegation that is being leveled against the UCC is that it is anti-Muslim. It is against the Muslims. That is the major argument which is being given by those who are criticizing it. I feel that those who are opposing UCC are anti-women. Only anti-women are criticizing the UCC. UCC will ensure equality irrespective of your religion, caste, creed, and the sooner we do it, I think it will be in the interest of the nation as a whole. It will unite this country. It will give a sense of equality among all the sections of society. You can't have different religion. If you belong to a particular person, you say I can marry first, second, third, fourth wife, and other person says because you don't belong to my religion, to other religion, you can't more than one. I feel it should be equal law, civil law for everybody. But I want to clarify one thing. People are confusing it with the rights that have to be performed by marrying. We don't away, UCC doesn't take away that right. If you are a Hindu, you will perform the marriage as per Arya Samaj, Jain Samaj, whatever Sanatan Dharma, etc., etc., but marry only once. If you are a Sikh, you will perform your marriage by having what we call as Lama around Shri Guru Granth Sahib Ji. Nobody will stop that. If you are a Muslim, you can marry by performing Nikah. If you are a Christian, you can perform that marriage according to Christian the rights and all that. Don't confuse that UCC will mean
so
you have to
it's
marry
not going to impede on your rights, but the law that governs the marriage becomes even. Waris Pathan, where do you stand before we bring in the ladies? Karuna Nandi and Amna Begum Ansari. Yes, Waris Pathan. The survey says overwhelming number of women, Muslim women, 8,000 plus Muslim women, overwhelming number in favor of a common civil code, or the contours or the ambits, aspects that cover
the survey conducted by you, Anand, the survey conducted by you or your channel is biased is misleading with a malified intention to target a particular community. I don't believe this survey. If you wanted to survey, you could ask the tribal women also what is their opinion on the UCC. You could have questioned the Christian women, you could have questioned the Naga people. But you have just chosen to survey the Muslims, and in 25 states you have done the survey of 8,000 women. I invite you, your survey team and your camera person along with me to various states in India. We will survey more than 50,000 women, and I am sure all of them will say they don't want a UCC. Your survey is termed as a MCC, Muslim Court Survey. That is why I don't believe that. And in our country, we have got pluralism, diversity. There's a constitution given to us by Dr. Baba Sahib Ambedkar, which talk about pluralism and secularism. Modi government wants to remove that. Why this survey? Why did you not survey the tribals? And in our constitution itself, Anand, they are talking, because why do I say biased? Because in our constitution, part 4, article 36 to 51 speaks about directive principles. We say liquor ban, which talks about equality, free legal aid, protection of citizens, equal pay for workers. Why don't you talk about that? That is why I say with
the same 36 to 51, Maris Pathan, the same 36 to 51 has 44,
yes,
which says that, which talks about a uniform civil code. The other aspect, when you said it talks about pluralism and secularism, then sir, you should not bat for personal law, because personal law then gets into the ambit of personal faith. It does not become secular. And sir, women, you are talking about the rights of women. We went and asked them the various aspects. Should marriage age be the same for men and women? They said yes. Should they get equal right in inheritance? They said yes. Should they have the right to adopt if they don't have an heir? They said yes. Should they have the right to remarry just as a man has after divorce? They said yes. So these are all under the ambit of a uniform civil code. Amna Begum Ansari, Waris Pathan says that our entire survey is biased. What is your point of view?
Yeah. This is the typical thing ki, until unless you produce the kind of outcome we want, you are a bias. We won't accept any survey, any opinion, any dissent voices until unless we approve those kind of opinion or ideas. So Waris Pathan should stop speaking on the behalf of the Indian Muslim women. He has no stake into it. And obviously, coming from a main perspective, why would they want a change in personal laws? Because it's very beneficial to them. Waris Pathan can have 4 wives. Why would he want that law to, scrapped away? This entire personal Muslim law will give him so many privileges over the women. He would always say that personal law should be there. Let me tell you one thing.
Okay.
The Muslim society has been peddling this idea that All India Muslim Personal Law Board represent Indian population. And imagine they don't have... till 2015 they didn't have a Muslim women wing. ये हालात थे इनके कि जहां पे मुस्लिम women wing नहीं बैठी हुई है, and they kept saying कि this is what our women wants. Now Muslim women are speaking up. They don't like the fact that Muslim women can come forward and speak for themselves, can have their own opinion.
So let me ask Karunanandi on this.
On the behalf of the
keeping aside,
they can speak for themselves.
Ma'am, one second.
And this is not.
Okay, we've heard you.
May I ask?
Yeah. One second. Varis, I'm coming back to you. Varis, 1 second. I'm coming. Karunanandi is also there on the debate. Keeping aside, the survey, the sample size, who we chose to speak to, and so on. The idea that liberal democracies anywhere in the world, you take the US, UK, they all have one set of common civil laws, whether you're Hindu, Christian, Muslim, Sikh, whatever it is. Why shouldn't India as a vibrant democracy move towards that ideal where all citizens have a common civil law, whether it comes to marriage, divorce, inheritance, adoption, etc.?
So that's an interesting question, Zaka Jacob. One thing that might surprise you is that in the United States, the states have different criminal laws, right? I am qualified in New York, and New York has a particularly tortuous law on murder, and it differs from the law in Connecticut, in Delaware, and in other states. So no country is alike. Our country is a federation. Am I in favor of a UCC in principle? Absolutely. But what is going to happen to women? I heard your Anand Sundaresan saying something about how tribal women and tribal populations should be included. In Meghalaya and in many other northeastern cultures, the society is matrilineal. It's not matriarchal. It is still, in many places, in my view, patriarchal, but it is matrilineal. Now, what does this mean? It means that the youngest daughter inherits the land, right? The culture is organized around this. To suddenly do away with it and organize the culture in a different way from Delhi, which in some ways is still quite far away, would not be acceptable. And in fact, it seems to me very doubtful that that would happen. The second thing is, what would you do to HUFs, Hindu undivided families? We don't know, because there is no UCC on the table. So when Mr. Satyapal Jain says that you will be able to, with such certainty, that you will be able to be married under your customs, that this is what will apply, this is what will not apply, he doesn't know. Has the Prime Minister said anything about this being based on gender equality? No, he has not. Have we heard about, in divorce, any community property between the parties being equitably divided? By community property, I mean any property acquired after marriage, the divorce. And there is a Kerala High Court judgment, a very recent judgment on this. We don't know. There would be a huge outcry from Hindu men. Huge outcry. Just as Hindu men and just as this
the
government,
outcry will be there from those for whom
if I may just finish, I've waited for half an hour and unfortunately I have to go quite soon as well. Now, the thing is that just as the union government is opposing us in court, saying that marital rape cannot be, the exception for husbands in marital rape cannot be struck down. I will give it to you in writing that no UCC will allow for any property acquired during the marriage to be divided equitably between the husband and wife. Why? Because Hindu men will protest.
Well, that is something. These are aspects which will come into. These are aspects. These are aspects. Karuna Nandi, these are aspects which will make.
I'll just take 30 more seconds.
Which will make the no. But you are also allowed. You also have to hear.
Mr. Sundaresan, you've gone
no,
on
my
for
name
a
is
long
Anand
time.
Narasimhan. Please get my name right, Karuna Nandi. I have also. It's not the first time you're coming on my show, but my name is Anand Narasimhan, Karuna ji. And my question to you is: all of these aspects will make their way into the draft of the UCC. The Law Commission is going to deliberate this. There are nearly 9 lakh responses. Are these people? Are these? No. My question to you is: where do you stand on the fact that Muslim women want equality, parity, and no more discrimination? The ambit of the survey highlights the fact that Muslim women in the country are saying that we want the same age for marriage, we want equal rights in inheritance, we want the right to adopt if we don't have an heir, and we want the right to remarry just as a man has soon after divorce.
That's an excellent question. May I answer it?
Please go ahead.
May I answer that, Mr. Narasimhan? Thank you. And I do apologize for getting your name wrong. It was absolutely unintentional. I'll make sure I get it right next time. Now, Mr. Narasimhan, the problem with your survey is this. While you ask Muslim women, in what regard would they like equality with Muslim men? And you got some answers. Of course, I mean, it's your sample size is about 8,000. But what you did not ask is that, is this in context of a law that would be imposed on them from above? Or is this in the context of an opt-out law, which I fully support, where people can say that, look, I don't want my Sharia, or I don't want my Hindu law to apply to me. I want to opt out. Right? Into a UCC. Like there is a Special Marriage Act that already exists. No, they were not asked that.
Yeah, the opting
were
out.
They asked
the
that
opting
this
out
might
itself.
Be in the context of the evolution of
Karuna ji, the opting out itself then is violative of the directive principles of state policy.
Your question. You asked me a very good question.
Satyapal Jain. This is where. Correct me if I'm wrong. The moment you provide a common code, you provide a uniform code with the option to opt out or opt in, that actually opens yet another Pandora's box. Satyapal Jain.
Polygamy, where 1.3%.
No, please, Karuna Nandi, polygamy, there are people, women have come out and said that they oppose it. They don't want, they want the law to be scrapped.
Muslim women and 2 point something % of Christian women. So it's a complete red herring.
I'm sorry, what kind of argument?
No, what argument are you making? This is the sample is Muslim women and they are against polygamy. They want it to be scrapped. Satyapal Jain, can uniform civil code be an option?
Sir, I want to clarify that your survey is among the Muslim women. I said earlier also, because allegation was that Muslims are against it. Your survey has clarified that even among the Muslims, the majority, overwhelming majority is in favor of the UCC. Why should it not be? If there is a same Indian penal code for all the Indian citizens, if there is a same evidence act for all the Indian citizens, if there is a same criminal procedure code with all the citizens, you commit a crime, you are tried as per the IPC. You may be a Muslim, Sikh, Hindu, Christian, whatever it is. The same evidence act is applicable to all the person. Then why should there be a discrimination only on the base of the religion? मैं अभी वारिस पठान साहब जो जिसका जिक्र कर रहे थे, वारिस साहब मैं आपसे एक सवाल पूछना चाहता हूं. आप जो हकूक खाविंद को देना चाहते हो कि वो 4 निकाह कर सकता है, 4 ख्वातीन रख सकता है, ख्वातीन को तो ये हक नहीं दिया कि वो 4 खाविंद रख सकती है. ये डिस्क्रिमिनेशन क्यों है? आप अगर एक आपका तलाक हो गया है, तलाक कह के आपने तलाक कर दिया है,
no, may I come in?
महिला को, उस ख्वातीन को दूसरी शादी से
पहले, in terms of there are a lot of arguments. There are a lot of arguments and counter arguments. If it was talking about protecting culture, etc., why was there a nationwide movement against Khaps? Why didn't they say, oh, in Haryana the Khaps do it their way, let's not disturb their culture and redo it altogether? But when it comes to Meghalaya, you do not want to touch that culture because you got to be careful. No, when it comes to forcing an entry into Sabrimala, then let's question tradition and culture. But otherwise, let's protect the rights of other groups. Now, these are convenient arguments just to depending upon which way the narrative would swing. No, and ma'am, you talked about criminal laws being in different states in US, but in India, if criminal laws are same for everyone, like Satyapal Jain said, then civil laws and personal laws, India is a different nation, right? So as a democracy, why shouldn't it be the same for everyone, and let's bring everyone on board? Now, I've run out of time. Yes, quick word, 30 seconds to Waris Pathan. He wanted to respond.
To make my
yes, Waris Pathan, 30 seconds, then I have to move on.
Anand, one of my co-panelists earlier said that Waris Pathan does not have a right to speak about the Muslim women. Madam, that is what I say. The beauty of the constitution is that it has given you equal right and me equal right to make our points. That is the equality. Second point she said that was
the constitution
that Muslim men marry 4 times, 4 wives. I would challenge her to name 10 Muslim men who have got 4 wives and who have married 4 times.
No, if they are not there, then do away with the law. Why have the law in the first place? Even if there is 1%, they should not be there.
I would like her to apologize.
Even if there is not 1% there, they should not be there. Even if there is 1%, it's wrong, sir. It should not be allowed. I have to wind up. I have to wind up, ladies and gentlemen, quickly taking you through the key takeaways of the UCC survey, the biggest survey that we've done here at CNN News 18. Have a look at this, ladies and gentlemen. High degree of support among Muslim women on all possible provisions of the Uniform Civil Code, what's going to make. So this entire narrative about Muslim community, and this is 50% of the Indian Muslim community who we have sampled, and they have come out with these responses. The second takeaway, if you look at it, support slightly higher among the highly educated or graduate plus Muslim women. So the more the education, the more the awareness and the understanding. More than 65% of the respondents agree with a common code for civil matters. At least 76% of the respondents disagree with polygamy. And this survey was conducted in 20 languages. So they understood the question. A staggering 82% of Muslim women seek equal rights in inheritance. 74% of the respondents agree divorced couples should be allowed to remarry without restriction. At least 69% of the respondents sought to will away their properties as they please. My property, allow me the right to give it away as I please. Close to 80% of the Muslim women agree marriage age should be raised to 21. So compared to the criticism, questions that are being raised, please ask those questions. But the fact is, we went out with an objective to try and show, does this position taken by certain groups and the clergy and the All India Muslim Personal Law Board reflect the voice of all Muslims in India? 50% of that population when sampled, that's the women. This is the response, Zaka, and that's what we wanted to prove.
I think absolutely. I mean, I think the basis of the survey was to see if there is consonance or dissonance between those people who claim to represent the society and what that community actually thinks. And I think there clearly is a divergence. And I think in principle, forget about Hindu or Muslim, and I agree there are nuances. Maybe in matrilineal cultures, you have to find a way to protect that, how property is succeeded from one generation to another. But I think the principle should be that you cannot have or you cannot hide behind the protections given to you by religious law for a discriminatory practice. If women cannot get equal share in property, that is a discriminatory practice and it cannot be protected by religious laws or personal laws.
Where in matrilineal societies, the same applies where the men are being discriminated against. So it's the reverse. So you will have to make them understand that the Constitution provides for equality, and you can have it. There can be provisions and there can be, clauses that can be added. Zaka Jacob and me will continue with the story, ladies and gentlemen. When we come back, we would have the former LG of Puducherry joining us, taking her position. Kiran Bediji is mic'd up and ready to speak with us. Kiranji will come to you after a very, very short break. Viewers, stay with us. The big UCC survey and her takeaway when we come back.